Est-ce que vous êtes prêt à donner un meilleur accès au marché laitier? Est-ce que vous êtes prêt à donner un meilleur accès au marché laitier aux producteurs américains?
Nous avons été très clairs depuis très longtemps. Le Premier ministre a été très clair. La gestion de l'offre n'est pas un sujet de négociation avec les Américains. Ce ne sera jamais un sujet de négociation. Ce n'est pas sur une table hypothétique de négociation et ce ne sera jamais. Il y avait un projet de loi au Parlement. Nous avons appuyé le projet de loi avec enthousiasme. Alors, moi, je suis tout à fait confiant que la gestion de l'offre ne sera pas négociée avec les Américains. So just in English, I think it's important. We have been very clear from the beginning that supply management is not a subject of negotiation with the Americans. It will not be, it is not or will never be on a negotiating table as we look at a review of the CUSMA agreement. The Prime Minister has been very clear about that. I've certainly been very clear. My colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, has been clear. Parliament passed a law that we supported happily to make it clear that supply management is not a subject of negotiations in international trade agreements. Maybe Heath would like to add something?
I think, following in the Prime Minister's footsteps and on, obviously, Minister LeBlanc's, it's not on the table. It's plain and simple. That's where it ends.
So is the article fake?
I would never purport to determine what the articles.
Mais, ou directement aux consommateurs, c'est-à-dire qu'il y aurait des fromages, par exemple du Wisconsin, qui n'iraient pas vers un grossiste, qui iraient directement dans les supermarchés canadiens. Est-ce que ça, c'est une possibilité?
Mais encore là, nous sommes en train de consulter les secteurs de plusieurs industries. Les fonctionnaires font ça en préparation de la révision de la CEUM, c'est ça que j'avais annoncé. Cependant, c'est le gouvernement qui décide qu'est-ce qui sera ultimement sur la table de discussion avec les Américains. Et j'ai bien dit que la gestion de l'offre ne sera pas un sujet de négociation avec les Américains.
A pipeline is getting closer to being proposed by the province of Alberta. Is the government ready to back that and add it to its major?
So again, you've got two hypotheticals there that apparently we're getting closer to a pipeline from the government of Alberta. Would we support that? We've said, so we're not answering. We're not answering hypotheticals. So we'll see what the government of Alberta announces. I've been participating, and the Prime Minister has been leading very constructive discussions with Premier Smith and the government of Alberta about the importance of the Alberta economy to Canada's economic strength, including the energy sector, including conventional energy sources. So we're always interested in things that would strengthen the Canadian economy and provide growth to Canada's GDP, and at the right time, the government will have something to say should a project.
Bonjour tout le monde. Hi everyone. So I just wanted to say we take good note of the new tariffs that were imposed on Canada. Obviously, we disagree with them, but I just wanted to say to all the workers and all the companies that are affected, we will be there to support you. There is support available. Obviously, we have a $5 billion fund, which is called the Strategic Response Fund. We can please contact your MPs or your different advisors, because you can reach out to the government. We will be in solution mode. And we also have, for smaller and medium-sized companies, we have also supports through our regional development agencies, which are in the Northern Ontario, for example, FENOR, FedDev in Southern Ontario, DEC in Quebec, etc. We will be there to support our workers as they're fighting for their jobs. Donc, on prend bonne note des tarifs qui ont été imposés par le président Trump. Bien entendu, on n'est pas d'accord, mais on est là aussi pour nos entreprises et pour nos travailleurs. On a déjà de l'argent sur la table qui est prête à pouvoir à être déployés pour aider les opérations des entreprises, que ce soit les grandes entreprises avec un fonds de 5 milliards de dollars qui s'appelle le Fonds de réponse stratégique, ou bien encore pour les petites et moyennes entreprises via nos agences de développement économique régional, notamment DEC au Québec. Je vais être là pour m'assurer justement que les travailleurs puissent être soutenus.
H-1B visa changes in the United States help Canada. Well, are we looking to attract more talent internationally? How will that help us?
So We are indeed working on a talent attraction strategy, as we know that academic freedom in the U.S. is being affected, and we need to make sure that we can attract a lot of researchers coming to Canada. When it comes to immigration in general, obviously the Minister of Immigration can answer these questions. OK, en français? Ben non, mais OK. Non, mais je peux me répondre en français. One other question and then I'll go to French. OK, je vais y aller au français, ça sera pas long. Yes?
How will you protect the lumber industry?
So we already have a plan to support the lumber industry. We know that the tariffs are really hurting. And it's the lumber industry, but it's also other types of derivative products. When it comes, for example, to cap paper, I'll be meeting with the executives of cap paper later today to be in solution mode.
Have you received any concessions from Anglo and Texas?
Donc ce matin, on a lu dans le globe que c'est possible que le gouvernement ouvre une brèche, ou peut-être que c'est pas interprété comme ça, mais qu'il y aurait plus de produits laitiers américains dans le marché canadien. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez? Est-ce que c'est vrai d'abord?
Je pense qu'on va laisser le premier ministre négocier. Moi, entre-temps, je vais m'occuper des conséquences des tensions tarifaires des tensions commerciales avec les États-Unis. Et c'est pour ça que je parle à plusieurs entreprises, plusieurs secteurs et plusieurs syndicats. C'est mon boulot de m'en occuper.
Have you received any concessions from Anglo and Texas?
The government took stock points and valued twice of what Obama traded today. I guess what confidence do you have that the company is going to be able to turn itself around?
Well, first of all, both Algoma Steel and the government worked very hard on that deal for a very long period of time, and all the way through the weekend. But it was many days in the making. That deal is absolutely critical to the survival of Algoma Steel. The 50% tariffs were meant to wipe Algoma Steel off the map. You know that's one of the plans is to decimate the steel industry around the world, and that's what Trump was setting to do. So this will allow them to pivot to the future, to diversify what and how they produce, because right now 50 to 60% of their steel is going to the United States, and a 50% tariff was just not sustainable.
Trump is escalating the trade war. He's adding new tariffs on. How much hope do you have that this will actually end at some point in the near future?
Well, we have a multi-pronged, approach this time, way different from the first time around. And right now, what we're doing is we're producing a lot of different products that we can use as we build big here in Canada. And so what we have to do is make sure that our industries have the opportunities to produce those goods, such as steel, aluminum, wood, in our major building projects, including retooling and rebuilding our military. I was in Vancouver and I saw a Coast Guard ship that had 98% Algoma steel in it, and it was just completed and ready to be delivered. So we need more of that. For instance, in Canada, Canadians, both in the private and public sector, use about 35% Canadian steel. Could you imagine if we double that? That would go a long ways to, helping workers work, and all the pensioners that rely on our industry that are, there's 8,000 pensioners in Sault Ste. Marie that rely on Algoma Steel survival because of their pension. And then all the small and medium-sized enterprises, thousands more jobs. So it's really, really difficult, especially in Canada when you have communities that Sault Ste. Marie, the next biggest community is Sudbury, 3.5 hours away. So when an industry goes down, and we saw it happen in Elliott Lake in my riding way back in the day, people just don't lose their job, they lose the equity in their home, they lose everything. So that is what drives me and keeps me going hard, and it keeps this government going. And we will survive, we're going to diversify, and we'll be stronger because of it.
How long do you think the trade war is going to last?
You know what? I can't predict that. All I know is that regardless of when it finishes, we need to make sure that we continue to diversify ourselves by making sure we're our own best customer, but also looking at new markets all around the world, and the rest of the world is doing the same.
But that'll take some time to diversify. What happens in the interim?
Things like we just did at Algoma Steel, to work with them to make sure that they're able to pivot and to
But that pivot will take a long time, potentially.
Yeah, they recognize that. 18 months to 2 years to pivot. But at the same time, what they're doing is able to do what they need to do in creating the best steel in the world. That they're going to an electric arc furnace, which will be like taking 1 million cars off the road, combustible cars. So we're doing it all at the same time, negotiating the new deal, getting the tariffs down to hopefully a number that even like people can deal with, especially with exchange rates. You know, my preference, of course, is 0, but we don't know what the outcome is.
What number might be acceptable?
You know what? You have to ask the industry. Each industry has their own perspective on it. So you'd have to ask people like Mike Garcia and folks what exactly they can.
But you haven't heard a specific number?
There's so many numbers around, I don't want to speak for the industries.
How concerned are you with the pace of negotiations right now with the U.S., especially on the tariffs?
You know, it is really, really important that we take a holistic approach at it, because 85% of products right now in Canada don't have a tariff on them. 15% do. Some of our major industries, right? So what we need to do is continue to make sure that we negotiate everything at once and make sure that our industry, as we are negotiating, are protected.
But specifically for your community, because it's disproportionately affecting.
No, it has. It very much has. Both, we have the second largest steel producer and another large steel producer in Tenaris. So, you know, we got to continue to work with that industry, listen to that industry, and we are. And, you know, what I want to do as well is, as a backbencher, I want to put forward a national strategy for steel that takes a look at the whole system and how we can strengthen our steel industry today and going forward. We're doing a good job, you know, reacting and working with them, but I think we need to be, you know, with a national strategy, be able to put forward a long-term vision and plan for the steel industry, because in 2018, unfortunately, the steel industry, quite frankly, didn't diversify enough, and they went back to their old markets, and we saw that movie again. And, you know, I can't tell you what's going to happen in the future in American politics, but we have to be prepared for whatever Trump's legacy is.
Trump just called Canada the 51st state again. Is that a signal to you that the trade talks are not going very well?
You know what? It's offensive when he says that. I'm a border town too as well, and you know, Canadians react against that. You know, we aren't. I reminded myself I used to go to a very quick story. I went to a state university across the way, Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and I was driving back with some of my American student friends, coming and bringing them to Canada, and we were standing at the border and waiting and waiting. And they were like, oh man, wouldn't it be better if we're all one big country? And I said, only if we had just one prime minister. So no, we're not going to accept that. We never will. And it's offensive, and it's childish.
Do you think that's hurting trade talks right now? Is that a signal for the tone of the room?
You know what? No, I think what we'll do is just continue to focus, as we do as Canadians. We're resilient, we're strong, and we'll continue to negotiate, and we will not let things distract us. We have the best country in the world, and I always remind my American friends we did win the War of 1812.
Should supply steel strategy, like how would that be different from the industrial policy that we're seeing right now, the Buy Canadian policy right now? How would that be different?
It's very complex, the steel industry, right? And each and every steel produced in Canada has a little different nuances, but there's commonality. So what we need is a strategy that engages each and every single one of the steel industry, the unions, the stakeholders, develop a plan on how we use more Canadian steel domestically, how we diversify, how we support workers, how we continue to fight foreign dumped steel. And we do that, and there's many, many more factors.
What's been the reaction so far when you brought that up to the Prime Minister?
Well, I am just bringing that up right now, and yeah, and so it's a backbencher prerogative to put that together. I've been in communication with my local stakeholders, my local union, my local industry, and everyone likes the idea. So going through the process will make us even better, and we will continue to put that out there as sort of a blueprint on how we move forward, not just today, tomorrow, but for future years.
Should supply management be on the table when it comes to negotiating with the U.S.?
You know what, I'll leave all the other negotiations to our very capable negotiating team, and I can tell you that, you know, supply management is a liberal invention, and it's served Canada very, very well. So I'll leave all those negotiations.
But do you think it's potentially pitting industry against industry, or it might not put Canada in the strongest negotiating position if Canada's going into CUSMA negotiations and trying to get a deal for the steel sector by saying this is off the table, we're not touching it, and the Americans want in?
Yeah, I don't think we should play industry off industry. What we do is we just negotiate what we need to negotiate with the best interests of Canadian workers and Canadian jobs at heart.
But you don't think it's time to maybe revisit supply management and our position on it?
I'm going to leave that up to the negotiation team. Obviously, there is a lot to be done, and we've done quite well with our deal with CUSMA over the time. But we also have some of the most trade deals with a whole bunch of other countries around the world. So, I think we've got to continue to focus on CUSMA, but also on our other trade deals to strengthen us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Qu'est-ce que vous pensez de cette sénatrice qui s'est rendue avec son mari jusqu'à Vancouver pour prendre des cours d'anglais? Ça a coûté près de 22 000 aux contribuables. Est-ce que vous pensez que c'est acceptable dans le contexte budgétaire actuel?
Oui, je pense que ça demande, comme d'autres instances qu'on a vues par le passé, dont vous avez fait état, je crois, certainement un examen des règles, probablement un examen de conscience aussi.
Concernant Post Canada, qu'est-ce que ça prend pour congédier le président de Post Canada?
Pour l'instant, j'ai demandé à Post Canada de faire une révision de sa structure de gestion, de revenir avec des économies, des gains d'efficacité. C'est ça à quoi je m'attends de la direction.
Have you met with the union?
I have met with the union.
Since you announced your changes?
No, I have not met since we announced the changes, and now I understand that the two parties are, I'm hoping negotiating in good faith and, with a sense of responsibility and the seriousness that I think Canadians expect, given that the financial situation of the corporation is a disaster. They're losing $10 million a day. So I'm hoping that they can find an agreement.
Je revenir sur mon histoire. Je revenir sur mon histoire.
Oui, Mme Martin.
Est-ce que vous pensez que c'est acceptable? Vous, là, comme contribuable, comment est-ce que vous réagissez à ça quand vous entendez cette histoire de sénateur?
Je trouve que c'est beaucoup, certainement, puis je pense qu'il doit y avoir une révision des règles. Je pense qu'il doit y avoir un examen des règles. Je pense qu'il doit y avoir un examen de conscience aussi de ceux qui participent à ce type de cours-là à de tels frais. Je veux dire, des fois, même si les règles le permettent, ça ne veut pas dire qu'on devrait s'en prévaloir. Et donc, je pense que les deux s'imposent.
Jusqu'où peut aller votre patience par rapport au management de Post Canada?
Écoutez, moi, je suis ministre depuis 4 mois. J'ai pris connaissance du dossier de Post Canada, de sa situation financière, 1,5 milliard de pertes cette année, 10 millions par jour. J'ai annoncé une transformation majeure. Je m'attends à ce que la direction fasse son travail, qu'elle revienne avec un plan sérieux pour couper le gras au niveau de la gestion, donc couper pour s'assurer qu'on ait une gestion qui soit efficace de Post Canada. Je m'attends aussi à ce que les deux parties négocient avec bonne foi, avec sérieux. Les Canadiens veulent un service de qualité de la part de Post Canada, mais veulent que ça se fasse à un coût qui est raisonnable. En ce moment, ce n'est pas quand on considère que la société perd 10 millions par jour. Donc, c'est ce à quoi je m'attends.
Qui est annoncé
pour la COP30. Pourquoi votre gouvernement coupe le financement des partis d'opposition pour la COP30?
Il faudrait poser la question à ma collègue, la ministre de l'Environnement, Julie de Bruson. Encore une fois, il faudrait poser la question à ma collègue, la ministre Julie de Bruson.
Si l'Alberta annonce aujourd'hui un projet de pipeline qu'elle veut mettre sur sa liste, qu'est-ce que vous pensez de ça? Est-ce que vous pensez que c'est nécessaire? Est-ce que vous allez appuyer ce genre de projet-là?
Il faut voir, les projets qui sont sur la liste sont des projets qui ont du financement des entreprises, derrière elles, des plans. Donc, c'est comme ça que nous avons fonctionné jusqu'à maintenant. C'est comme ça qu'on va continuer de fonctionner. On verra ce qu'il y aura dans la deuxième version de la liste qu'on attend un peu plus tard en novembre.
Mais ça ne vous inquiète pas, vous, un projet de pipeline en Alberta?
Écoutez, il y a beaucoup de discussions théoriques là-dessus depuis très longtemps. Encore une fois, on verra ce qu'il y aura sur la liste en novembre.
J'ai une sénatrice québécoise qui s'est rendue jusqu'à Vancouver pour prendre des cours d'anglais. Est-ce que vous pensez que c'est raisonnable?
Écoutez, je pense qu'il faut saluer le fait que les gens travaillent, que ce soit, on parlait de la gouverneure générale la semaine dernière, que ce soit des députés, des sénateurs, des sénatrices, de s'assurer que les gens puissent fonctionner dans les deux langues officielles. Il y a beaucoup de députés, sénateurs, sénatrices qui viennent au Québec pendant plusieurs semaines suivre des cours d'immersion. Donc, c'est une pratique qui est commune. Merci.
Is your government interested in regulating tech companies to protect against online harms?
As you know, I have, when I was first Heritage Minister, worked on this. We've tabled legislation in the previous Parliament. This is something that we're very concerned and we're looking at very closely.
But will you be retabling some version of Bill C-63?
We're looking into this as we speak.
What specifically are you looking at?
Une sénatrice qui se rend jusqu'à Vancouver pour prendre des cours d'anglais, est-ce que vous trouvez que c'est justifié dans le contexte économique actuel?
Ben, je pense que c'était un manque de jugement quand je lis l'article que vous avez écrit ce matin. Je pense qu'on est dans les règles, mais en même temps, on est dans une situation présentement où les gens sont en train de regarder leur portefeuille, le gouvernement est en train de regarder le portefeuille, donc je pense que c'est un manque de jugement.
Merci. Potentially being announced, a new pipeline project potentially being announced from your province.
We'll have to see what this afternoon's announcement brings.
And what further action will you take against Imperial Oil?
Cependant, le gouvernement sera ultimement sur la table de discussion et j'ai bien dit que la gestion de l'offre ne sera pas un sujet de négociation avec les Américains.
We're not cutting back service, we're reconfiguring it so it's more efficient so people still get their mail.
Were there any takeaways from the meeting with the Taoiseach last week?
Again, you've got two hypotheticals there that apparently we're getting closer to a pipeline.
It can always be closer with Ireland. I mean, Ireland is one of our best friends. It was a very, very positive exchange between the Prime Minister and the Taoiseach. Canada and Ireland have a long-standing relationship. Trade has almost doubled since provisional implementation of CETA, and there's lots of room for more improvement. There was a report released last week about opportunities for further trade. There's lots to work on, lots of positive things. They invited our Prime Minister to come visit Ireland next year, and we're hoping he's going to do it. Thanks very much.
Du potentiel que vous voyez dans ce projet-là, l'importance que vous y avez mis sur la liste aussi?
Bien, dans nos chaînes d'approvisionnement, il y a des entonnoirs. Le port de Montréal en est un important pour réaliser notre potentiel en termes d'exportation, de diversification des marchés étrangers. Il faut absolument qu'on augmente notre capacité, notre prévisibilité, notre fiabilité. Et Contre-Cœur est la réponse à bon nombre de ces questions-là.
Vos attentes sur l'annonce d'aujourd'hui, est-ce que ça va aller assez vite à votre goût pour justement qu'on puisse avoir les retombées rapidement?
Il n'y a pas un projet d'infrastructure qui va assez vite à mon goût.
I did take the decision on the request from Marine Land to export 30 belugas to China. The decision is that I declined to export the belugas. I want to be really clear. This is a very difficult decision to make, but it is rooted in the Fisheries Act. And I'm proud that in Canada we do have an act that is very specific around the treatment of whales in particular and how it is not okay to keep them in captivity for entertainment purposes. So that decision has been made.
Will you oppose any transfer to an amusement park or anything like that of these belugas?
So it's clear within Canada that we cannot hold marine mammals in captivity for entertainment purposes. Decisions going forward in terms of my role would really be around decisions that align with the health and well-being of these whales. Ideally, all whales belong in the ocean, not in tanks for entertainment purposes.
But these belugas have already died in marine land, so is there anything that the federal government can do or is thinking about doing or will do to help these whales?
So obviously my decision today is really rooted in the need to say, look, we cannot knowingly allow whales or continue to allow whales to remain in captivity for entertainment purposes. I'm open to looking at other decisions that really speak to the health and well-being of whales going forward.
What's going to happen next?
That decision sits with Marine Land. Yeah, thank you.
The Alberta government is going to be announcing in a couple of hours that they're going to be supporting and working with some large companies to put forward a pledge to manage this.
Well, as you know, for a project to be put on the list of federal list of national projects of national interest, it has to be more than just an idea. So obviously, there's been a first tranche of projects that have been announced. The Prime Minister said there will be a second tranche around the Grey Cup, so we will see what happens then.
What do you make of this grand argument that an oil pipeline can be built as long as it's done in concert with carbon capture and storage? Do you think that even works?
Again, I mean, carbon capture and storage works. It's a technology that's been used for a very long time. mostly to enhance oil recovery in oil well. Now, what we're trying to do is to do it specifically to sequester carbons and make it economically viable. It's not so much a technological challenge as it is an economical one. That being said, again, for a project like that to come to reality, you'd have to make sure that there is social acceptance. Certainly, if it's going to BC, obviously, the British government, the people of British Columbia, Indigenous nations would have to agree with that. Merci.
On the topic of supply management in Quebec and tariffs, how are those negotiations going, and what did you make of the report in the Global News?
I'm sorry, I haven't seen the report from the Globe, so I can't comment on it.
Should Canada put supply management on the table in any of these talks, though?
I'm sorry?
Should Canada put supply management on the table in any of these trade talks?
I'm not involved. I'm not the minister involved in trade negotiations. You should really talk to. There's a number of them that are doing that. Thank you very much.